Hi there, everybody. I'm Kraig Kann. Right now, on this edition of Tracks to Success, what's it like to grow up with one of the most iconic names in personal development and then take the baton and keep the momentum going? From see you at the top to top of the mountain leadership, he's the CEO of Ziglar Inc. and the son of legendary motivator and author Zig Ziglar. But this story isn't about the shadow of a famous name. It's about a man who's built his own path, expanded a brand that's inspired millions, and remained committed to timeless values in a changing world. His mission? To help people move from survival to significance by defining their why, developing winning habits, and living a personal and professional life of purpose. He's a best-selling author, keynote speaker, leadership coach, and one of the most respected voices in personal growth today. This is Tracks to Success. His name is Tom Ziglar, and his inspiring story of success starts now.
Welcome to Tracks to Success. This is the podcast that brings you inspiring people and their inspiring stories, how they found their way to the top, and how their path can help you do the same. Here's your host, network broadcaster, C-suite executive, best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur, Kraig Kann.
Tom, thanks so much for joining me. Honestly, it's a pleasure. I've been a fan of your family's message for years. Zig Ziglar's the name that everybody knows, transcending generations. I think people are very comfortable in hearing that name, but you've crafted a path all your own, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Thank you.
Kraig, thanks for having me on. We connected and just kind of hit it off. So I'm excited about what you do and for our time together.
Well, that's a thrill just to hear that. I appreciate it. Let's see how you feel when we're all done with this thing. Okay.
You bet.
Let's start with this. You're the CEO of Ziglar Inc. All right. Now that title comes with a big name attached to it, as you know, and an even bigger responsibility. So what does that responsibility of carrying something, a name that big, what does that mean to you? What comes with that?
Yeah, so it's really it's one of those, it's a blessing, but there is a burden with that blessing. We estimate that Dad, Zig Ziglar, impacted over 250 million people in his life.
Mm,
Millions of books sold. His speeches for over 30 years, he was speaking at least 30 times a year to audiences over 10,000, and something that'll probably never be replicated again because the times have changed.
yeah.
6.5 million Facebook fans. His audios, you go into multiple industries, and if somebody's over the age of 40, they've probably heard Zig Ziglar at some point in
Sure.
their career. And when Dad, when he was passing this on, he told myself and my sisters years ago, he said, "You'll never know true freedom until I'm gone."
Mm,
And we didn't understand that. But when he passed away, which was about 13 years ago, the realization hit in that, I've been at the company for almost 40 years now, 37,
mhm.
38 years. I really grown up in it. But we had been all supporting him. I mean, he was a force of nature, a huge personality. I mean, the main branding is Zig Ziglar Corporation. Uh, and so that's a personality driven business. And so we had muted without even realizing it our own gifts and talents. And so there was this. So when Dad left, nobody could do that. People would come to him all the time and say, "Hey, I'm going to be the next Zig Ziglar," and he would say, "Oh, that's a terrible decision. You need to that job's taken. You need to be the best you can be." And so with that realization is my gifts and talents are not the same.
Mm,
Nobody's are. And so
yeah.
that means that you've got to step into that and really work on your own gifts and talents, what you're capable of doing, but still keeping the foundation, which is the philosophy,
Yeah.
alive. And so that's the burden, right? The burden is not that I was told you have to be the next Zig Ziglar. Dad said, whatever you do, I'll support it as long as you
Yeah.
do it with 100% integrity and 100% effort. So I had the freedom to go do what I wanted to do. But now carrying on this brand, this name, it's the philosophy and what it stands for and living up to that. That's the burden. And it's a good burden to have because our philosophy was true 50 years ago, 500
Right.
years ago, and it will be true in the future. So
Yeah.
it's a good standard to have, but when you kind of maybe you shouldn't have said something or done something because people call you out.
Well, let's talk about that pressure potentially. When people hear Ziglar, okay, they think legacy for sure now. But I know you're not just preserving history, you're trying to pay it forward. You're trying to move forward and build something forward. So you talked about your own success and you trying to carve your niche, if you will, your name, put your stamp on it. How do you define success in your role today?
Yeah, so I love my father's definition of success. Success is the maximum utilization of the abilities that you have.
Hmm.
Okay, so what does that mean? It means everybody watching this, listening to this, you can be successful today. You've just got to maximize all your gifts and talents, your abilities today. That's a successful day.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of our gifts and talents and abilities are a little bit different. That's why comparison is so dangerous. We can't compare our success to somebody else's because we've got different tools, we've got different
Mm-hmm.
skills, we've got different experiences. And so I have to look internal and I have to say, okay, so what does success look like for me? And there's three things I love doing. I love speaking, I love writing and creating, and I love really working with coaches and leaders. And so for me, success is transferring my knowledge, my information, my habits, my systems to someone else so that they can learn it, understand it, and then they can do the same thing. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
everything that we do is designed to equip you so you can take that message forward. It's like I guess in football, you've got great coaches and they don't have any lineage. They don't have any coaches that came out of their system
Mm-hmm.
that can run an organization and run a program. And then you have other coaches where their trees got so many branches and so
Sure.
many roots. And to me, that's what legacy is really about. It's not only being successful personally, which obviously is important, but it's about taking those principles and those ideas and equipping others to go do the same thing.
Yeah. I talk a lot about authenticity and being the best version of yourself. You have to be that because everybody else is taken anyway. So you have no choice. And then what are you going to do with that, right? How are you going to put that into the marketplace? Let's uh let's talk about your background and we'll get into all that other stuff. We'll come back to that. I want to get into your background. Not the family bio. I want yours. What were you pursuing way back in the day? Was leadership something that you said, bang, I really do want to do this? Or were you thinking something else? I know you have a passion for golf,
Yeah.
but what'd you think?
Yeah, so I went to college and I was a political science major. And I thought, someday I'm going to be in politics. My heart is too tender for that. There is no way I can
Mm,
put up with that. I learned that pretty quickly. And I played college golf. It was a
mhm,
non-scholarship school. Fell in love with it before college, even, but really said, you know what? I wonder what this could look like. And I thought for probably 3 or 4 years, hey, you know what? I'm going to go on tour. I got a late start, and then trained with some of the best. Hank Haney was an instructor,
oh, wow.
and really got good enough to understand how good the guys on tour are. Right?
Yes,
You
yes.
know, to have a +3 handicap, and you can pretty much handle anybody you come across, and then go and play in some of those big tournaments that I had the opportunity to play in and just get smoked on literally every aspect of the game. I realized that not only did I have a late start, but I had a talent deficit. Uh, and so I started working at the company at that time, first to support my golf habit, but I worked my way through the company from the
Okay.
warehouse to production, and then I got into sales, and I just fell in love with sales
Huh.
and solving problems. It was because selling is serving, and the way we teach it, and the way you got to have a high level of skill, but really what you're trying to
Mhm.
do is to figure out, okay, what's holding that individual back or that company back, and how can I help solve that problem in the best way possible? And then from there into leadership. And so it was only in the last, gosh, 10 years where I started thinking because it's like you got to grow up at some point, right? In our heads, we're always this kid that's going to do all these things. And then as I got invited to more and more leadership things and started playing in that space, and I wrote a book in 2021 on leadership. So it wasn't like an overnight, yeah, I'm a leader now. It was like this realization that, and this is where we're on the same wavelength, that leadership is all about communication.
Hmm.
And when the pandemic hit, and I started studying how the values of this world have changed, how people's priorities got reshifted, how, we started seeing work from home, and now we've got all this AI coming in. That's a new type of disruption. How do you actually lead people in a way that inspires them, creates internal intrinsic motivation so that they feel like they're moving towards their own purpose, their own why, their own calling, at the
Hmm.
same time helping the business achieve its goals.
Yeah.
And you can do that as a leader. That's a powerful thing. So that 10-year journey on leadership, I wish I could say it just was like a switch that flipped, but it wasn't. It was really trying to understand what's holding people back and what's holding business back. And that's where the leadership came in.
Did you feel pressure to carry on the legacy? Like, if I don't do this, it's not going to be what my dad wants it to be?
Craig, that's a pretty deep question that has like layers and layers and layers, because people will say, well, what was it like growing up in Zig Ziglar's house? Well, I didn't know any different. Um,
Sure.
right. So, so I get out in the world and I'm like, wow, I had it pretty good. I mean, it's like the ultimate mindset person in the world, and all the habits, that were kind of built into my life from the very beginning, all the things that would give me the best chance for success, was there. Um, but I didn't feel pressure because that's just all that I knew. And so that carrying on the legacy, um, I was about a year after dad passed away. One of my friends, who is also kind of a mentor to me, he said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing good, but this legacy is pretty heavy."
Mm.
And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I feel this obligation to live up to this standard." And this is what he said. His name is Dr. Clifton Jolly, and he said, "Tom," he said, "your dad's legacy is secure. He's gone. Uh, you don't have to worry about his legacy anymore. You only have to worry about yours."
Mm.
And that was just a real subtle shift. Um, and when you talk about performance and allowing somebody to perform at their highest capacity, that's a real important shift,
Yeah.
because if we carry weight we're not meant to carry or supposed to carry, then it's harder to perform under pressure, right? There's all the doubt and second guessing and all that stuff. But when you realize, no, it's just about creating a legacy I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm in alignment with Dad's philosophy, so I know that's going to go hand in hand. And so, yeah, it has been heavy at times, but again, that's kind of a self-imposed heavy. Uh, I get thank yous on a regular basis from people who were Zig fans, and they say, "Hey, thank you for carrying on the legacy." And it kind of like makes me step back, because to me it's like, oh, well, thank you for saying that, but really I'm just trying to do the best I can, right? And live out these
Sure.
principles
Sure.
and carry it on in my own way. So it was heavy. And I can understand why, somebody else who's in the same position, like when I was competing, uh, in golf, uh, Gary Player's son was playing and Jack Nicklaus had some sons playing. And I used to think, gosh, how hard would it be to go to a tournament with that last name?
Sure.
Right. I mean, that's just, well, now I go and speak on some of the same stages that Dad was on. So it's like, oh, I kind of feel it. Uh,
Hmm.
and so I go out right out of the gate and say, hey, I'm Tom Ziglar. I'm a nerd. My style is different, right? I like set the expectation up front that, you're not going to get a Zig Ziglar style speech. You're going to hear a Zig Ziglar message, but in my way. So yeah, I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Tracks to Success is proud to have the support of Ahead, true innovators in premium headwear. For more than 25 years, Ahead has been outfitting golfers and supplying headwear for the game's most prestigious events. Head over to aheadshop.com and explore their incredible collection of major championship golf hats. And don't miss their lineup featuring your favorite college teams. If you're looking to dress for success, Ahead is the perfect brand for you. So think ahead and look for it at pro shops and special events across the country. And how about this? For listeners of Tracks to Success, Ahead is offering one of its biggest discounts ever. Visit aheadshop.com and use the code TTS30. That's TTS30 to get not 20% off your purchase, but 30% off. That's right, 30% off with code TTS30. Ahead, the finest in headwear and the official headwear of the Tracks to Success podcast. Available now at aheadusashop.com. We're talking with Tom Ziglar. He's the CEO of Ziglar Inc. And it is a true pleasure. Learning a lot. Love the golf tie-in. That's fabulous. I want to share a quote, okay? Ziglar philosophy quote. You can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want, end quote. That's pretty powerful. And it talks a lot about putting others first and their needs. And you talked about sales and trying to solve somebody's problems and being their superhero. That's what I like to call it. Um, y'all have carried that for years. And you've been pretty vocal yourself in speaking about that and how it ties to success. Can you share a little about that?
Yeah, that is the most famous Zig Ziglar quote. It gets repeated more often than any other. I get business cards at events that I go to, and they'll have that little quote underneath their
Mm,
signature line. It could be XYZ Corp, and they have that quote there. You can go to websites, and they'll have that quote on their page. And so, but here's the power of that quote. There are actually 5 questions embedded in that quote that are really the secret to success. So think about this. You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So the first question is, what do you want?
mm-hmm.
And then the second question is, why do you want it? And so those two things need to come hand in hand, because if the why isn't strong enough, when the obstacle or the barrier comes, you'll give up. So you got to know what you want and then why you want it. And then the third question is around, if you help enough other people get what they want. So who are the other people you're going to help?
Mm,
Right? Who are they? And the more we can dial in the avatar of who they are in that niche and who we want to serve in that area, then the better we can be in our performance and in our messaging. And so who are they? And then what do they want? Okay, so what do I want? Why? Who am I going to serve? What do they want? Well, how do you find out what they want? You ask them.
mm,
Like, what do you want? And then the fifth question is, okay, how are you going to get them that? How are you going to get them that? And so those are the 5 questions in that philosophy. You can have everything in life you want. And so it's about serving. It's about solving problems. As I call myself a Christ follower, uh, and I get this quote from a rabbi, Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He said, when you solve a problem, you're often rewarded with a certificate of appreciation. We call
Mm,
that money, right? We call that money. The more problems you solve, the more certificates you get. And
right.
then and then he said this. He said the creator of the universe is never happier with his children than when they're solving the problems of his other children.
Mm,
And so that should, if you're listening, that should give you hope because
right.
the creator of the universe smiles when you go out and solve a problem for somebody. So that
Yeah.
now you've got a moral obligation to go and do it. And I just love that.
You talked about some alignment that we might share. When I do my keynotes, one of the messages that I share with people is personally, I don't have a big interest in being known, but I do have an interest in being knowable. In other words, delivering something that I provide some sort of value for why I might be recognized or known by some people. How it ties, in my opinion, is success and significance, which is big in the Ziglar conversation piece. Can you talk about that? The shift in success to significance? Because I think it's pretty powerful, actually. A lot of people think about, I want to achieve success, and they don't necessarily think about what type of a significance they play in something.
Yeah, and this is there's a big shift in that. And you can tell people who are in it for success and you can tell people who are in it for significance. So success, a simple definition that a lot of people pursue is success is when you achieve the good things in life, when you can do what you want, when you want with who you want, right? So
Hmm.
it may be just the financial ability to control your own destiny, your schedule, all those things, money, fame, power, influence. Those are all the hallmarks of success. And then at Ziglar, we go broader and we say, well, that's great that you do that, but you can't trade your health. You can't trade your family relationships. That's part of success too. So we talk about balanced success. And most people, that's how we start off. We come out of school and we got to get that job and we got bills to pay and we got to
Sure.
climb that mountain. Well, significance is this. It's when you help someone else be, do, or have more than they thought possible. And so success is kind of a personal achievement. Significance is when your joy comes from helping someone else,
Hmm.
right? When you see them prosper.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's why I love the coaching world so much, is because every day you're helping individuals in all walks of life break through some barrier, achieve something they didn't think was possible. And and one of the things that is usually a key ingredient is that you believe they can do it many times more than they believe they think they can.
Agree.
All right. And so, well, you've been there. You've coached people into, influence and effective presentations, and you're saying just try this, and they're like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to try that. And then they try it and they see it on camera and they're like, whoa, that looked pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
but the belief you had was in them was the thing that allowed them to give it 100%.
Yeah.
And then they see that result. And then so we actually there's four words in this pattern here. One of them's a made up word. So we go from success to significance, and then we go from significance to legacy.
Yes.
So legacy is when you're all of a sudden you're in this significant zone, but now you're teaching that person how to pass it on. Like you're mentoring or we're coaching them on how to be that significant difference maker to somebody else,
Yeah.
right? So in our leadership program, we call it coach leadership. And what we do is we coach leaders how to coach their people. And so
Hmm.
I want to make that leader a great coach, but then also want to help them coach their people so that their people rise up and become great leaders.
Yeah.
And so when you combine all three, success, significance, and legacy, We call that significance. So,
I like it. I
so
like
when
it.
you, I encourage everybody to make up your own words and have fun with it because it's great. So that's we're in the significance business. We want people to have all three. We want you to be successful. We want you to have significance, and we want you to help others to have significance.
So let's keep going with that significance. I developed a program called A Brand New You, trademarked it. And it's about taking somebody and putting them in a situation where they develop the best of themselves, things they didn't even know they had, unlocking some sort of secret as well into becoming the best presenter of themselves that they can be. Now, that puts them in some situations that are uncomfortable, but they grow from that. At the end, when they fill out the form about what the program meant for them, oftentimes they're like, I really did find out that I have a brand, that I do have some skills that I didn't know I had. And I get great pleasure and great joy from that. It's probably one of the things I'm most proud of in my whole career is seeing people walk out of that room at the end of a day and a half. So that's something that I put together. You've got the Ziglar performance formula. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Can you share what it is and what, not what just that it is, but why did you develop it? What was I gotta develop this.
Kind of in a nutshell, we're in the performance business. So,
Yep.
um, I woke up one day in a sweat and I'm like, golly, nobody buys training. They don't. They buy the results of training. They buy the results of,
Hmm.
they don't buy coaching, they buy the results.
Right.
They don't do a one-on-one program with you to buy that program. They do it so that they can transform into this person who's getting a result, right? They're
Sure.
that's what they're buying. And so when you look at performance, we created this formula, and the formula is attitude times effort times skill.
Okay.
And this is how simple it is. When you go eat somewhere, you walk in and we're looking around. So the first thing we notice is their attitude. Were they happy to see me? Did they greet me with a smile?
Hmm.
Did I feel welcome? Or am I just a number, right? Am I an inconvenience? And so attitude is the first thing we notice. And then we get shown to our table and then we start looking around because the question is, hey, are these people on their toes? Is it going to take a long time to get served here? Or people moving? Is there effort? Are they moving with, like
Right.
the appropriate amount of and hustle? Uh, and then the third piece that we notice is skill. And that is, hey, did they get the order right? Did the food come out prepared right? Did they serve it from the correct side?
Yeah.
And and so what is our experience like? Well, it's a combination of those things, attitude, effort, and skill. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with somebody with a fantastic attitude, but they were an idiot. I don't want to go back there. And I can also tell you that I've been served by people with unbelievable skill, but I'm not going back there either because they made me feel like an inconvenience, right?
Right.
And and so this formula has some math to it. So let's just make it real simple. If somebody's brand new first day on their job, let's just say their attitude's a one, their effort's a one, and their skills a one, right? Because they're uncertain, they don't know how they're going to fit in, they haven't been anything to do, and they haven't been trained. So one times one times one is one. So their output's a one. When they've been there a little while, if they've gone through the onboarding, if they've been trained a few things and they have the attitude of the team, whatever that is, now their attitude is a two, their effort's a two because they're doing what's expected, and their skill is a two because they've been trained a little bit. So two times two times two is eight. And
Hmm.
that's kind of like the standard in the world. But then you get the top performers. And the top performers are very, very interesting because they take on ownership. They own their attitude, they own their effort, they own their skills. So they'll say something like, you know what, I don't care if the weather's bad or if I get cut off in traffic or what my coworker says. I own my attitude. It's going to be positively encouraging and contagious. So there are three. And effort, I don't. I don't really care what everybody else is doing. I want to know what number one in the world does as far as activities and things that I can do to work harder and smarter.
Mm,
That's what that's how the guys on tour make it, right? They don't practice like
absolutely.
everybody else, right? And then there's skill. And so somebody who owns their skill is like they're grateful for all the training the organization gives, but they're constantly investing in themselves and doing training on their own and going to that next level. And so now there are three at each one of these levels. Well, three times three times three is 27 is the output. And so if you look at the top 5% in any industry, they out earn the average three, four, five, six, seven times to one. And you can boil it down to they owned those three things in their own career, right? They made a
Hmm.
choice. I'm going to have the best attitude that's going to give me the best chance for success. I'm going to outwork, out hustle, outsmart everybody in my
Yeah.
effort and my skill. Here's the interesting thing in a business. Um, if you and so in math, if you have an equation and you turn one of the integers to a negative, then the outcome of the equation is negative. So let's just
Negative.
say you got a guy who's got a bad attitude. So we'll give them a -2. But man, they work hard and they've got great skill. Well, -2 times 3 times 3 is what? -18. They're killing your business. It's more profitable to send them home with pay under three conditions. Don't let them talk to any customers, don't let them talk to any prospects, and don't let them talk to any other team members. Because that attitude at that level of influence kills the group.
Wow.
So attitude's the most important thing. Drives every, if you have the right attitude, you're going to work harder. You're going to know that skills are incredibly important. You're going to buy into it on your own. But our business world starts at the other end. They hire you, and what's the first thing they do? Skills training.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then what do they do next? They put pressure on effort. And then if you're not producing, then they start giving you attitude adjustments, right? It's like they they do it backwards.
Yeah.
So so that's the Ziglar way. We start with attitude, we own it, and then we move from there.
In addition to hosting this podcast, Kraig leads the Kann Advisory Group, focused on elevating communication for companies and individuals. Company consulting, team and individual workshops, mind-altering virtual programs. To learn more and to find out why the Elevate workshop has been labeled the most powerful experience in leadership communication, visit canadvisory.com. And when you do connect, mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive your special discount. Now, back to the interview.
Tom Ziglar is my guest on Tracks to Success. Fabulous conversation. I want to talk about your book, Choose to Win. Talks a lot about habits. We could talk a lot about the book in general, but I want to ask you what habit specifically changed your trajectory, your track to success the most?
Yeah, so I'll give you the one habit that had the biggest impact on me, and then I'll give you a new habit that I put in place a little over 3 years ago, which
Okay.
is pretty cool. So I have this quote: "What you feed your mind determines your appetite."
Okay.
So the number one habit is we got to control our input, what we listen to, what we read, who we associate with.
Hmm.
Because think about this: everything starts with our thinking, and then our thinking will determine our actions and our beliefs, and everything stems from that.
Hmm.
So Dad had a quote. He said, "You are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. And you can change what you are and you can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind." And so the first thing that we can do is to change the input that goes into our mind. That is the biggest habit. And there's a side habit that goes with it, which means we've got to guard against the negative things the things that are detrimental that are going into our mind.
Hmm.
And so this is kind of a cultural comment. Um, as a culture, we look for certainty in the most uncertain place in the world, which is social media and the news. It changes every day. Science is no longer science, and then it's science again. I mean,
Yeah. By the minute, by the hour.
yeah, it doesn't matter. And so, wait a second. Well, if I can't make a decision until I'm certain, but I'm searching for certainty in the most uncertain place in the world, how's that going to work? Not really well, right?
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
golf, we know the term rabbit ears. Somebody who's lost
Oh
and they
yeah.
start listening to everybody.
Hmm.
That's not the way to solve it. So when I started changing my morning routine to start with putting the right things into my mind, what I listen to, what I read, I have a gratitude habit that I do every day. It's all about trying to create this atmosphere that allows me to um, be in a place to succeed,
Hmm.
to have performance. So that's the big habit, and you
Okay.
can build habits off of that. Um,
You've coached, Tom, executives, you've coached entrepreneurs, you've coached celebrities, I'm sure, teams, individuals. How different is that world? Maybe, maybe just a little different, maybe really big, different from the traditional personal development space that your dad really focused his attention on.
so I'm doing a series. We have on YouTube. We call it the Ziglar Coaching Academy,
Okay.
and it's just I'm doing a bunch of anywhere from 3 to 30 minute videos on coaching principles.
Hmm.
And so Dad was actually a life coach before there was
Yeah.
even such
Right.
a thing, right? But his audience was the individual who listened to it and then took that and coached themselves. And so really the principles and everything are the same, whether you're coaching yourself or you're getting coached by someone. It's the same idea. It's the same things that work, because if it's true, it'll work tomorrow just like it worked yesterday. That's the reality of it. The coaching world, when you work with high performing athletes or CEOs or COOs of huge corporations,
Hmm.
the difference is their level of awareness of what it takes to be successful is already in place.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes they'll have a blind spot, and you help them with that. But most of the time, there's because they are where they are, they know what it takes to get there, right? They know the energy and effort that it takes, and they're willing to, uh, the running back, what's his name, Derrick Henry. Uh,
Yep.
he spends $250,000 a year on his physical fitness.
Absolutely. Yes, he does.
Well, duh. Look at the contracts he gets. That's like a no-brainer. There's a proportional scale. If you're making, let's say you're making $100,000, are you spending as a percentage of your gross income the same amount on your own personal wellness and development? You should, because you're going to get a 7 times return on it, just like
Hmm.
he's getting. It's
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. So that's the difference, I think, between high performers. They may have a blind spot, but they don't usually push back against the work it takes to get there because they've already worked so hard to get
Mm.
there.
Looking for a guest speaker for your next event or annual conference? Kraig's message is inspiring and empowering. Visit kraigcanspeak.com to learn more about his topics and find out about his green shoe experience. It's a day your people will talk about long after he's gone. So visit kraigcanspeak.com and mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive your special discount. Now, back to the show.
Tom Ziglar is my guest. Want to tell everybody exactly how this all came to be because, as you mentioned, Tom, yeah, we had a little conversation, hit it off, and boom, here we are. But we were introduced by a friend of both of ours, Bob Bodine, who was on this podcast once upon a time. Fabulous guy. And he's written a couple of books, Two Chairs and The Power of Who. I've read both of them. And that Power of Who talks about networking and that we know the people we need to know in life to help us get to where we want to go. If we lean on them, we don't need a bigger network per se. We already know those people. So I want to talk about networking just a little bit. When I coach people, teach people, I teach one day a month for up and coming broadcasters, sportscasters at Full Sail University in Orlando. And I talk to them about the importance of networking. Got to network your way to the network if that's where you want to go. You got to get to know people. You got to put yourself out there. That requires building a brand along the way, and your brand is a part of that network. I talk a lot about personal branding and owning the moment. Bob Bodine is a big brand, and he certainly knows how to own the moment. How do you coach others? Let's talk about brand. Because Bob's built one. He talked about it on this program. You all have a power brand, the Ziglar brand. How do you coach others to build a brand that isn't just polished and shiny, but it's powerful, right? You talked about impact and all that other stuff, significance. How do you coach people to build that?
Yeah, there's a word that was used to describe my dad by many people, and that word was consistency.
Hmm.
Most consistent human you've ever met, right? It didn't matter the stage or off stage, or if he was tired, or if he just woke up, or if it was lunch, or he was on the golf course. Super consistent. And so, if you're thinking about your brand and you understand the problem that you solve, and like you said, this is what I want to be known for. What are the things that you can be super consistent in
Mm-hmm.
that your competition isn't? It could
Hmm.
be you could be known as the thank you note guy who writes the thank you note, right? Always
Right.
follows up. Um, Seth Godin is a friend of mine, and he had this concept. He called it the scalability of trust. And I love this idea as far as how you can weave this into your own brand. So Seth said this. He said, I don't pursue revenue. I don't pursue profit. Those aren't in the goals for me. They might be for you. That's okay. But this is what he said. He said, my goal is to scale trust in every interaction.
Hmm.
So, so before he gives a speech, before he sends an email, before he sends a text, during a one-on-one conversation, a Zoom call, in the back of his head, what's going on is trust going to go up because of this interaction? And so if you make that concept of being consistent and scaling trust in every interaction that you have, you're going to set a standard that you're going to be compelled to rise to, and you're going to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
Um, Dr. Henry Cloud wrote a book called Trust, and he said there's 5 reasons of why we trust people. So number one is their motive is for us. They want us to win, right? And so if you're building a brand, do the people you're serving, do they really believe that you want them to win?
Hmm.
The second is we trust people who understand us. And so a great way to build a brand is to ask those deep, curious questions to where the person you're serving knows that you understand them. Right. And then, of course, there's ability and there's character and those track record. Those are the 3 that he talks about. But if you can scale trust because you understand them so well and they know that you want them to win
Yeah.
and you're consistent in rolling that out, that those are the ingredients. Right. And these are all character things. These are all foundational things. Like I tell people, none of you can be Zig Ziglar on stage, but all of you can be Zig Ziglar one on one.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Um, I want to play a little game real quick. All right. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I want 3 quick answers, no more than 25 seconds. Let's see what happens. In the world of leadership, we hear a lot of noise. Everybody seems to have theories and opinions and all that stuff. What sets a trusted voice apart from one that is just loud?
Yeah. Four words: hope. They inspire hope.
Okay.
Vision. They give people a higher calling that they want to move towards. Right. Belief. They believe in them, and trust. They're consistent. You can always count on their word.
Excellent. You've shared the stage with global influencers. I would say you are one now for sure. What's the most common thing that you find that leaders get wrong, not right, wrong about communication?
They're on the stage for the wrong reason. They're in it. They're on the stage for themselves. And
I
you should
firmly
be,
believe.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. They should be able to read the crowd, amend their presentation, and serve the people in the room where they are right then.
Huh.
You can't do
Yeah,
that unless you're there for the room.
I totally agree with that, and it's also a feeling of I get to be here, not I have to be here. And you can. I'm a big body language guy. You can see that in people, and I also believe there are a lot of people that talk, and very few have something worthy in it in their message. Have something to say.
I
Um, Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if it's a big audience, a lot of times I'll go and just sit in the middle of the crowd an hour or two before I go up
Hmm.
and just start looking around and start feeling gratitude for the room that I get to be there and just
Yeah,
feel the people.
yeah. Last quick one. When you look at Ziglar Inc. and what it offers, podcasts, books, you talked about the academy, speaking, coaching. What platform lights you up the most and why?
Platform, like where do I like to perform or which one of
Yeah,
those
what of
platforms?
those things? Podcasts, speaking, book writing, all that.
Wow, I love working with coaches and leaders. And so that could be from the stage, that could be on a Zoom call, that could be one on one. And when I say working with coaches or leaders, what I'm really doing is trying to transfer what I know
Mhm.
so they can go and multiply that impact through their own organization or through their own clients. That's what it's like. If I teach you something like and you achieve a goal because of it, I'll give you a high five. But if I teach you something and then you call me up and say, "Hey, I shared that with somebody," and then they shared it with their kid and their kid got this result, man, I'll do the Snoopy dance, right? Because what that meant was is you internalized it, you passed it on so well that who you passed it on to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the Snoopy dance. That's what gets me excited. That's why I like a little bit more intimate relationship with the leaders and the coaches, right? So that we can go to that level of really that legacy level.
Winding down our conversation with Tom Ziglar. Thanks so much for the time. Before we go, I want to throw a few things at you. This podcast is called Tracks to Success, inspiring people, inspiring stories. I always say that the track or the tracks to success, not a straight line. Okay, there's detours, there's pivots, there's changes, etc. What's the biggest detour or pivot that you've made that changed everything for you?
It was right after Dad passed away, and this is a mentor mine, Steve McKnight. He's a great friend. He lives in Australia. He was here, and he said to me, "How's it going?" This is like 3 months after Dad died. And I said, "Oh, it's going good." And he said, "Well, really, what are the plans for Ziglar?" And I gave him the plans. And guess what? It was old
Mm,
history, old news. It was
mm,
He goes, "Let me ask it a different way. You pick up your phone and there's a voice at the other end. And that voice says, 'I've kidnapped your wife and your daughter. And you will never see him again unless you can grow the business 10 times over the next year. What would you do?'" And so that made me realize that what you're known for, the good things that you've done, aren't necessarily the things that are going to give you the greatest impact going forward.
Mm,
And that was a huge pivot. And so out of that, I said, we need help. We gotta start equipping other people to carry on this messaging. Right. And so that was a huge turning point for me. But I didn't really see it until it was in that stark contrast of what's my why? What's the thing I value the most?
mhm,
And if they were at stake, what would I need to do to 10x the business, so to speak?
mm.
And that was really to let go of the good so we could achieve the great. That was a turning point.
Do you coach people to accept failure in a way that can really help them? Because we learn so much from things that don't go the way we expect. Is that a part of something you work on with people?
Yeah, I was raised on this quote, failure is an event, not a person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all failure is. I think John Maxwell says, uh, you win some, you learn some, right? And so that's all failure is. It is a learning experience. And so now you have a choice. And this is what people don't understand is we can choose to learn from that. Uh, it's the hardest thing in the world to win the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You usually don't win the first time.
Yeah.
But boy, once you've learned those lessons and what you got, how you're going to respond in that situation, then it goes off. So that's how I approach failure. It's not a person at all. We learn from it. We wrap our arms around it, and we might even I might even say, how did that feel? You want that feeling again? Nope. Okay, good.
Mm.
Let's let's not worry about the result. Let's worry about all the things we can control that will give us the result that we want.
Yeah. Couple more questions. One of the words that I use is sticky, and try to help people become sticky, memorable. There's a lot of people out there. You got to cut through the clutter, find your differentiator, your superpower, be sticky, known for something. What's sticky about your personal, not the Ziglar Inc., but the Tom Ziglar? What's sticky about your leadership style?
Whew. So now, because I'm a nerd, so I've got the nerd brain going. So that's why, is it what I say about so sticky is what other people would say about you. Uh,
Yeah.
right. Uh, I think it's authentic. Um, our we've got a habit at Ziglar, and that is we adopt people into our family.
Mhm.
And so we have this vibrant community. And so what they'll say that's different about coming and working with us is the community, right?
Mhm.
You're seen, you're heard, you're loved, you're respected, you're adopted. You are always welcome. You're not a number. We want to know what's going on. Um, so that's so I don't know if authentic is the word that wraps all that up, but but that's it.
Love that you can be yourself. Love that you can say, I'm the nerd guy. That's powerful stuff. Last thing, as you look forward, what would you say is the biggest challenge for Ziglar Inc? And as you look back, two-part question here, what's the thing you're most proud of?
Yeah. The biggest challenge going forward is we've got a timeless message. How do you communicate and market that in a timely way? Right? Because the world's perception is right now, it's disruption and it's chaos and what's going to happen next and is AI taking my job and is now the right
Yeah.
time to make this move to invest in this. And so it's how do you constantly present the solution in a timely way? That's our big challenge. It's not that what we do
Mhm.
works or doesn't work, it works. But getting somebody to believe that is that I think what I'm most proud of is I'm learning how to rely on this incredible community and group of people that we have around us on our team uh, to just thrive, to go out and do what they're called to do at the highest level
Mm.
without trying to micromanage or control. And because as I mentioned vision earlier, as a leader, we've got to create hope and vision. Hope is you're important. You make the difference here. You when you do well, you're going to win, right? There's hope here,
Mhm.
and we solve a problem that creates hope in the world, right? People they love doing business with us, and so our vision is that this is where we're going to be in a year and in 5 years, and when you share your vision with people, what that tells them internally is, hey, they see a place for me, right? And so when you can create hope and vision with your group and then have that confidence to let them just run and shine in their own area, in their own superhero powers, whatever
Yeah.
that is. As long as they're in alignment with the vision that you've got going on, that's a secret, and that's hard to do. Um, but the people who pull it off, man, they create world changing organizations and teams and everything else.
You've done an amazing job at paying a legacy forward, continuing to make impact. I'm proud to know you. I'm really glad and grateful that I was able to have you on this podcast. Here's to many more birdies. We'll throw in an eagle or two as well in your
There you
golf
go.
game. And I hope we get a chance to talk again. Thank you so much for the time.
All right. Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. I'm grateful for the opportunity and bless you.
Friends, success isn't just about the look of your resume. It's about the way you look, and dressing for success in the workplace is important. The way you look out of the workplace is part of your brand as well. Ahead, our official headwear partner, is all about helping you show off your best self. A hat says a lot about you, and Ahead doesn't just follow trends, they set them. Available at pro shops, resorts, and big sporting events around the country, and also online. By listening to this podcast, you get a chance to save big. Visit aheadusashop.com, use the code TTS30, and receive 30% off your order. That's aheadusashop.com, using the code TTS30. 30% off just for you. Ahead, the finest brand in headwear and the official headwear of Tracks to Success. Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Tom. Fascinating man. It's time for getting ahead. Let's talk legacy, shall we? And let's talk leadership in today's world. Now, Tom shared so much about his father's influence. Zig's messages still echo, maybe a little bit louder than ever, but what's most compelling is how Tom has honored the foundation while evolving the mission to fit today's actual reality. Now, years ago, I heard a speaker say, legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's what you build into people while you're still here. That stuck with me. And that's what Tom Ziglar is actually doing. He's not chasing perfection or popularity. He's focused on something far more meaningful: significance. He talks a lot about that word, significance. It's not a buzzword, it's a mindset. And that's the challenge for all of us. Are we actually making an impact, or are we just making noise? Have you ever thought about that? I talk often about owning the moment, owning the stage, if you will, because when you do that, you gain influence. And when you gain influence, you get attention. And when you get attention, you actually create traction. Aren't we trying to do that? Tom Ziglar is proof that your last name might open the door, but it's your work ethic, your mindset, and your determination, along with a message, a real message, that actually keeps it open. So here's the takeaway: you don't have to carry a famous name to build a powerful one. Just be very intentional about what you do, be consistent, and be remembered for something. I talk a lot about that. Be remembered for something that's actually bigger than the title that's on your business card. There's a great goal. And if you do that, your tracks to success will be a whole lot easier. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Until next time, I'm Kraig Kann. Thanks for joining me.
Don't forget to subscribe to the show for more great interviews and Kraig's thoughts on reaching your highest personal and professional summit. Find it wherever you get your podcast and on the Kraig Kann YouTube channel and kraigcanspeak.com.